Now, I wonder if you just heard that. That was something that Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, and he talked about a father giving good things to his children, and which father, if son asked for bread, would give him a stone, or asking for a fish would give him a snake. What happened just before that was, ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be opened. He's actually promising that if you ask the Father, remember the Lord's Prayer, Father in heaven, if you ask, if you seek, if you knock, you will receive, you will find, and the door will be open to you. If we who are normal parents know how to give good things, how much more will our Father in heaven give good things? Now that's introducing the idea of my address today, which uses the expression, endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as a son. Now that's an interesting passage, and I want to look at that a bit more. But I just want to tell you what happened last week. Last week we looked at one of my favourite verses. I'm going to read it to you, and it's the last verse, but don't jump ahead. This is talking about suffering and having dreadful circumstances, and this writer is saying, I have learnt the secret of being content, whatever circumstances. And this is not just the power of positive thinking, this is the work of God in his life. So let me read it to you. I have learned, says the Apostle Paul, to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Now, he is saying all that I just talked about. No matter how bad it gets or good it gets, I know what that's like, and I've learnt the secret, whatever I face, to be content, at peace, happy. And the secret, if you heard last week, Jesus only ever used the word secret once in all his teaching that's recorded. And he said to his disciples, when they asked him about the parable of the soils, Lord, we don't understand. Could you explain it? And you know what he said to them? The secret of the kingdom of heaven is yours. For the rest who don't ask, they only get parables. But to you, you're going to find out the secret. And then he goes on to teach them and explain it to them. How is it that we know this secret of being content? Now, I'm not into motivational speakers. I used to be. I listen to all these guys, Zig Ziglar and Anthony Robbins, and I don't know whether you know who they are. But they're all about trying to live this amazing life by your own efforts. Jesus made it crystal clear you need to ask, seek and find, and God will draw you to him. And the way that people learn the secret of what it is to follow Jesus is not some kind of mystical thing. It's, Lord, I don't understand. Could you explain it to me? I want to learn about you. So the secret's not that scary. It's just saying, I want to understand Jesus. I want to listen. I want to learn. And he says, well, ask and you'll receive. Anyhow, the context of that was, if you suffer, don't worry, you can be content. Everyone walked out going, well, that's easily said than done. So I want to look at today's passage again, and specifically this verse. These are memory verses I learnt over the years. I call them my precious diamonds. And this is a lesson I have learnt, which I have discovered to be wonderful. It says, endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as sons. Now, at first reading, honestly, first time I read some things, I go, come again? I'd like you to understand this, because that's where we learn things And hopefully as I explain it to you, you go, oh, right, that's really good. This is chapter 12. It's really helpful to know what was said before. In chapter 11, there are two verses I particularly want to point out to you. All of chapter 11, the man is listing all these great people of faith, Abraham and Noah and all these amazing people. But the two things I want you to notice is this. The first is in verse 13. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance. If you know the story of Abraham, God basically promised everything to him, and he's 100 and he still didn't have a son, not a child. He gets the son, but that's all he gets, and then he dies. Each of these people had faith, not it's worked out exactly what I want it to work out, but I trust you, God, and I can see what you promised. The second bit, which I think is great in this, and this is what I particularly love, don't forget this is the verse that comes before what we're looking at. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. So we don't get everything now. God had planned something better for us, so that only together with us would they be made perfect. I really love this. God had planned something better than what we could ask for. Better that only together with us, only when we are with God himself, only when we walk with him, that we will be made perfect. That's what I look forward to. I look forward to the day, as you can, when I close my eyes in death and my new body, I open my eyes, I meet Jesus. I say this at all funerals, for example. I will be with God, together with him. Now, all those people had faith, and I know many people have faith, and the way their lives end, well, as a rule, when life ends, it's not normally a happy time, but they still have faith and a joy and a peace. And this is a bit what Emma was talking about. When people see that in a Christian, they go, I don't get it. What is it? And you can talk to them about the Lord. So what I want to do is look at chapter 12, and here is the passage that is there, and I'm going to put them all together. Can I just quickly give you a quick overview, and we'll get to that particular verse. Are you ready? Now remember, there was a group of people and they all started walking home because they were hungry and they had meat pies in the oven. But the disciples didn't go home and said, Jesus, we still don't understand. He says, oh, I'll tell you. They don't get it because they just don't care, or there's something more important. So this is where you listen. Hopefully it's good stuff. Here we go. We're told in this chapter, before we get to the verse, it uses the word persevere and endurance 4 times. And that's because life is described, if you can see that first one, I realise it's a bit small, life is described as a race. By the way, races are hard, if you've ever done it, especially if it's longer than 100 metres. But even when I did 100 metres, I was wrecked. And that was, 9.4 minutes, seconds, anyhow. It hurts. And you'll notice the other word down there in verse 4 is life is a struggle. Now, this is just describing life in its reality. Life is definitely a journey, but for Christians, the idea it is a race and we have a destination. And the whole idea of the race is, I don't just sit back and, do nothing. No, there's a direction for me to live, and how do I find it? And as I seek it, it is a struggle. It is hard. Now, then he starts talking about the idea of sons. The word son is used 6 times, and discipline is used 10 times. There's nowhere else in the Bible where discipline is used that much, not even close. Now, sometimes with the sons, you say sons and daughters. I've just left it like this because it's important that it's this way, and you'll see in a minute why that's the case. But sons and discipline. Let me go on. He talks about, at the end, the idea of being trained. That's the end here. And the word is where we get gymnasium, gymnos. So he's saying life is like going to the gym. And if you remember going to the gym, has anyone ever gone to the gym? It hurts. It hurts. And you think, I'm going to do 10 push-ups, and after 3 you go, that'll do. And then you go on the bike and you think, oh, I'll go for 5 minutes, 1 minute. The whole point of a gym is you get hot and sweaty and it hurts. But the whole idea, if you remember going to a gym or any exercise, it's meant to hurt. If it doesn't hurt, you're not actually making your muscles stronger. And so you've got to be disciplined. And I've been disciplined a few times and then ended my membership and taken it up a bit later. Anyhow, the idea of this whole passage, though, is we are looking at this particular verse: endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as sons. Now, I found this very helpful. Are you ready? Whenever we talk about discipline, it's punishment. You're being disciplined, you're in trouble, go to your room, or whatever. Unless you're married, and they still say go to your room, but there's no dinner as well. The idea, though, that's how we think of discipline, a negative thing. But did you know that the Greek word is the word from which we get paediatrician or pediatrics? It's to do with teaching children. To have a child, to discipline a child, it's talking about raising a child who needs direction, a child who needs teaching, a child who needs instruction, learning what it is to be polite, to ask nicely, to be friendly, to share your toys, or whatever it is, be respectful to parents. So the idea of discipline is you become a disciple, following the parent to become what you believe it is to be a mature adult. Sadly, this does not happen in most first world countries now. We are told the most ludicrous thing, that let the child work it out for themselves. Ask the parents how it's going. No. They need to be disciplined, not punished. They need to be paidia. The actual word is paidia. They need to be taught, directed, counselled, instructed, occasionally punished. Go to your room or whatever it is, to learn what it is to grow up and live as an adult. Anyhow, I love that idea because when I face hardship, I'm being told to endure it as paidia because God is treating me as his son, or God is treating me as his daughter. I want you to change for the better. It will hurt. It's very easy to stay the way you are, but if you follow the way I teach you, it'll hurt, but it's good hurt. Now I want to look at the immediate context before we look more closely, and this time I'm going to read through it and you'll get the picture. Are we ready? Therefore, he says, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, that's chapter 11, let us throw off everything that hinders the sin that so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race that is marked out for us. It's a race. And as I mentioned, races hurt. And the longer they are, the more they hurt. But that's what life is. All of the first world country are trying to do whatever they can to minimise their pain, to maximise their pleasure and comfort. How's it going? It leads us to misery because it doesn't fulfil us. So the idea is there is a race, but when it says marked out for us, what is the direction we are meant to be running towards? You know, Jesus said, broad is the road and wide is the way that leads to destruction and everyone's on it. the way of pleasure, the way of prosperity, or whatever it is, the way of kudos and fame, or... No, he says, go by the narrow way, which is the difficult way. Well, what is the way at the end of verse 1 marked out for us? Oh, this is the great thing. The race that's marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. It's very interesting, that lady that went to Mecca and she remembered what Jesus said. Of all the sheep, when I lose one, I will come and find you. That's what she remembered. She focused her eyes, without even really realising it, on Jesus, the one that she wants to be the person that will rescue her. He's the author and perfecter of our faith, who ran the race, and he is the one that marks out the way to get there. So we read on, as we put our eyes on Jesus. Everybody, you think about this? What are you looking at? What are you focusing on? What really matters? How to get that really good bargain at the shop. I often do Gumtree, waiting for something to be free, or whatever it is. Men, women, actually don't have to be men or women. We all have other things. Where's your mind go to? What's for lunch? I don't know. What are we actually doing? We're fixing our eyes on Jesus, who, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Look at Jesus. Was Jesus' life a time of lovely, butterflies and cuddles and beautiful music? His life was a life of hardship. And he says, follow me. And he ended up enduring the cross, suffering death, that he might be glorified and put at the side of God, where he now can bless us. But you'll notice we are to focus on him, and that second endured such opposition for sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. I want to be that content. You occasionally meet people, whatever they face, they're okay. Trusting the Lord, I'm at peace. By the way, sometimes people say that for different reasons, but those who are genuine, you realise they have a hope and a certainty and a faith that I want to have. And the person they have their faith and hope in is the Lord Jesus, so that they do not grow weary and they do not lose heart. Now let's get to that bit about sons and daughters. You ready? Sons and discipline. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood, and you have forgotten the word of encouragement that addresses you as sons and daughters. Okay, we are looking now at a proverb written by Solomon, the wisest man in the world, and he ruled Israel, believe it or not, when Israel was a superpower. Egypt and all the other countries bowed down to, and he was the wisest man. And here he is talking to his children. He addresses them particularly as his son. My son, do not make light of the Lord's discipline. Do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because the Lord disciplines those whom he loves, and he punishes everyone he accepts as a son. Paidia, I will discipline you, I will teach you, I will train you, I will guide you, and sometimes I will correct you and perhaps even punish you. But when it comes to any kind of discipline, because he's talking here about the Lord's discipline, do not lose heart. He's treating you as a son. Now, I want you to notice the two responses of hardship. You and I attempted to have one or the other. Things are tough. What's the two responses? Oh, by the way, let me give you. You'll notice, do not make light of the Lord's discipline, and do not lose heart when he rebukes you. There's two responses. I learnt, Anthony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, these are very old motivational speakers. I don't know who the new ones are, basically, suck it up, get going, I'll be okay, overcome it, positive thinking. In other words, whatever I face, forget about it. I'm going to live my way and I'm going to succeed. That treats God's way very lightly. And then those who lose heart. I've been here as well, where you just think, this is too hard, I just give up. Woe is me. God's not there. Things could not be worse. Both are wrong ways to respond. Do not make light of the Lord's discipline. Do not lose heart when he rebukes you, because he's treating you as a son. So we come to our verse. Endure hardship as discipline. God is treating you as sons. Now, there's 5 statements that follow. Each of them make a clear distinction. What does it mean to endure hardship as discipline? God is treating you as sons, and here we go. The 5 points are: we are God's children, God's sons. We are to respect and submit to our Father, who is God. God knows what is good and right, so we can trust him. No pain, no gain. That was one of my things. But it's the idea of peace of the trained. These people who are children, who are learning, they actually have a discipline and have learnt to deal with their pain and prosper and know peace and fix your eyes on Jesus. So let me take you through each of these. It shouldn't take too long. We are God's children. Here we go. What son, this is the first statement, what son is not disciplined by his father? If you are not disciplined, and everyone undergoes discipline, then you are illegitimate children and not true sons. You do realise throughout all history, in every country, every race, children were taught to respect their elders. Did you know that? Didn't matter whether you're in Egypt or Assyria or the Amazon, children respect your elders. Unless, of course, you're part of my culture, which is the first world culture that really has only developed in the last 100 years, where children are not taught that. Children are not disciplined. Children are not taught anything except it's your body and it's your life. You decide what you want to do with it. Well, how's it going? I'll ask again. Kids are a mess. But he is saying here, in the normal real world that has always been, what son is not disciplined by their father? A father always saw, son, daughter, let me tell you what life is. This is how you live. You don't tell lies. You work hard. Hopefully they're telling you the right things. And if a father, or you don't have anyone that treats you like that, it's as if you're a nobody. You're illegitimate. But we are God's children. He is our Father. We are to respect and submit to our Father. The second thing he says is, moreover, we have had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of our spirits and live? Has anyone had a teenager who says, I hate you? If not, and you have a teenager, it won't take long. It is very interesting. As a child becomes an adult, you are not paydaying, you're not training them the way to go that they... And we had our daughter said, I hate you. I don't think our sons ever said it to my face, but I'm sure they thought it. But you know what they say when they grow up? Thank you. Thank you for guiding me, for preventing me, for showing me, for punishing me, for not letting me. Thank you. Because your paideia, your discipline, your guidance, your teaching protected me. And in most cultures, we see that happens. Now you'll notice it says, we have all had human fathers who disciplined us and we respected them for it. I do believe children that have grown up in a secure, clear, loving, disciplined family rejoice when they're adults because they're not immature, self-centered, narcissists I'm 60, I'm old. Anyhow, I'd never heard the word narcissist. How many of you hadn't heard of the word narcissist until the last 10 or 15 years? Narcissist means it's all about me. All of the world is about me. You know why I hadn't heard it much? Because there weren't that many people. Now, everyone's a narcissist. That's why old people say, oh, what's happened to this young generation? They're all a bunch of narcissists. We've taught them to be like that. And sadly, we have become that too. No, we had respect for those who taught us. And we're told, how much should we submit to our Father of our spirits and live? When I hear what God says, there's definitely a part of me that says, I don't want to do that. But there's the other part of me that says, but I trust you. You're good. You know what's best. I'm going to submit to you and obey you. And you'll notice he's the Father of our spirits and we can have life. Third thing, God knows what is good and right. How about this? Our fathers disciplined us for a little while as they thought best. Who's got... We've all got stories of what mum and dad did to us and we're scarred. I'll never be the same. I'll never forget. I'm a person that, so messed up by my parents. By the way, some of them did a good job. But the whole point is, our fathers disciplined us for a little while as they thought best. Many a parent said, I think this is the right thing to do. And you realise later they meant well. But, we're told, God disciplines us for our good. He knows what is good and best and right. He disciplines us for our good that we may share in his holiness. It's a lovely thing when I listen to what Jesus says, right? He's right. He hasn't said a single thing I've read. I think it was Emma was saying that when people read what Jesus said, they just go, this is awesome. I've heard this. Many a person of Islam or other faiths love when they read what Jesus said, because what Jesus said is so right. He goes on, no pain and no gain, the peace of the trained. Let me read to you. How true is this? No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Let's go back to the gym. Many times I've gone to gyms. When I was in Canada, I worked there for 4 years. It rained all the time. There's nothing else to do. So you'd go to the gym and I ended up becoming pretty buff. I got back to the good old days where I was hoping girls would look a second time. I was a bit old, so it didn't happen. But the idea was I went through the pain barriers and I worked hard and I exercised, and the pain was good because I got what I wanted. The last day before we left Canada, we did a garage sale. I carried everything out onto the lawn. We didn't sell a thing, so I carried everything back in, did my back in. I've never been the same since. And so I slowly lost it all. But discipline in a gym, in a workplace, in a relationship, I could choose to get angry at my wife often, but it's normally because I'm a narcissist, little immature baby who wants my way, like every other adult who's a sinner. But discipline is saying, Rich, don't be like that. Show kindness and love. But it's very interesting, it's hard to do that. And that's just one minor example. The idea is discipline here is God directing us in ways we don't want to go. It is not pleasant. Jesus said, if anyone wants to follow me, this is what you've got to do. Ready? Want to follow me? Be good. Say your prayers? No. Anyone want to follow me? Deny yourself, not just not a narcissist. You are putting yourself last. Deny yourself, take up your cross, that is willing to die and suffer, and follow me every day. Not many people remember him saying that, but that's what you want to follow me, he says. That's what you've got to do. You go, that sounds hard. And he said, yeah, it is. Don't worry, I will discipline you. I will train you, teach you, enable you. You'll notice on, it says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who've been trained by it. This idea of righteousness and peace, this is to do with relationships. You know what righteousness is? I've done this before. Alan and I have had a tiff or something, and then we say sorry and everything's okay. We say, "We right, mate?" And he says, "Yeah, we're right," which is, we're right. It's forgiven, it's forgotten, it's okay again. That's what it is to be righteous. I've said sorry, or he said sorry, we're right. Apparently, when we are disciplined, it will produce a harvest of righteousness that I actually find my relationships with others are just better and better, and also a peace. Well, let me finish with the last one. It says, fix your eyes on Jesus. Well, it doesn't actually say that, but this is how it ends. Therefore, strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees, make level paths for your feet, so that the lame may not be disabled, but rather healed. There is a path you're running on. And see how it says, strengthen your feeble arms and weak knees? It's an imperative, but the idea of being strengthened is lifted. Be lifted by your Father. Make level the paths for your feet. Comes from the word orthopedics. You know, pedics, by the way, is feet here, not children. But orthopedics is the idea of flattening things. That's where we got it from. An orthopedicist is trying to make you straight. We just want to have a path that we can walk on. We'll avoid the thorns, the dangers, the cliffs, the valleys, the ravaging animals, the enticing temptations, and walk the right way. So friends, when we talk about enduring hardship as discipline, God is treating you as sons. We are therefore looking to walk that path and experience difficulties and hardships, knowing that God is with me and I can be at peace and content. Let me conclude with this great statement. I'll read it with gusto. Are you ready? All these people of faith, remember, chapter 11. Therefore, ready? I'm talking to each one of you particularly. I've got you in mind. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, I actually know people like this in my life today. Since we're surrounded by them, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And what is the race marked out for us? It is following Jesus. Verse 2, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Set your eyes on Jesus. Friends, that's a bit longer than usual. Sorry about that. It's because all the people here I like and I thought you wanted more. Sorry about that. Friends, we're going to conclude with a beautiful song, and that is The Beautiful Name. Jesus makes all the difference. Let's stand and sing together.